Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence. Yes, Trevor Lawrence. Everyone speculated, wondering when he was going to get his new deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it has happened. Of course, it happened last week. We're going to get into that, kind of break down the dynamics of the deal, as well as, maybe a few other things, a few other quarterbacks that may be, kind of smiling at this new deal that Trevor Lawrence has got. We're going to get into that more as we go along into this episode. But first, of course, we always got to do the get off your chest moment. And in this episode, I kind of want to just talk about knowing your time. Knowing your time. Now, of course, this isn't one to talk about football or sports or anything like that. It's knowing your time, basically meaning when it's your time to do something, when it's your time to be quiet, when it's your time to actually step up to the plate and say something as well. The timing is everything statement is very, very true. And it comes to just about everything, whether it be football, basketball, life, or anything like that. And you also got to know that time when to step away. Now, the Trevor Lawrence news dropped last week. But yes, I am here today talking about it. You're probably wondering why. Well, I took time to step away because you cannot, you definitely can put your all into something you're doing, but you also have to know when to sit something down. And I did so, and, did some relaxation, came back. Now I'm refreshed, renewed, ready to go. As many of you know, I do this show year-round. I don't really take very many breaks at all because I definitely love to bring the content and just, basically talk about sports. But, you do have to know times when you got to sit stuff down and actually take a break, because if you don't listen to your body and hear things, then your body is going to tell you in other ways by, shutting down or things of that nature. And you don't want that. So, that's what I want to talk about on this episode, just kind of start off. But, hey, I'm back. I'm back on top of it. I didn't miss a whole week. Just, didn't talk about the Trevor Lawrence contract exactly when it happened. Still doesn't mean my information isn't going to be valid, which we're going to find out about, of course. But yeah, just want to open the show with that. Definitely want to get into this Trevor Lawrence deal. Now, the speculation has been out there pretty much all offseason as to when this deal may or may not happen. Of course, he was up for the contract extension, and, people were just wondering, a matter of when and what number. Because, of course, they did fit their option, which, that's pretty usual for any player. If you've done, reasonably well or, had some production in the NFL, they're going to, extend you or, to pick up that contract option. But for Trevor, they picked up the contract option and kept getting hit with the contract questions. And in those contract questions, of course, he's handling it pretty professionally, not really diving off into it, saying he's not really worried about it. In the back of his mind, he's probably still thinking about it, but that's another story. However, eventually they came to terms on a new deal. Now, just to give you a little heads up, they did sign Josh Allen to a long-term deal for the Jacksonville Jaguars on the defensive side of the ball. And he's been a guy that's been there for a while. He's been there longer than Trevor Lawrence has. So, that's a good thing for him. And for Trevor, now you have him signed to a new deal to be your anchor on the offensive side of the ball, or the cornerstone, I should say. That's the word that is being used these days. But yeah, he did sign a new deal. It's 5 years, $275 million is the number. That's, just going to give you, that's the paper number, because that's not the guaranteed amount of money. The 142 million is guaranteed when he signed the deal. That was guaranteed as soon as he put pen to paper. 142 million. And 200 million of that contract is guaranteed in terms of, him being there, his performance bonuses, all those different things. So, he has the potential of making 200 million unless, some other stuff happens, injuries or, career injuries, stuff like that, which we're not hoping for. No. I'm just mentioning that just for, information purposes. But yeah, so it basically ties him to the Jaguars through 2030. Now, people are looking at me confused and like, okay, it's 2024, and why is it 220? Okay, that's because he did sign his 5-year, his 5th-year, fifth-year option, and then of course, they picked up his 5th-year option, and of course that deal runs through 2025. So then you got, the rest of this deal that kicks in. And that's what you have, basically. So, definitely, we're going to get into what does that mean for, him in general. Now, of course, his deal puts him up there with the tied for average per year, average annual value per year with Joe Burrow. Because Joe Burrow is, of course, making a certain amount of money, I would say, $219 million. But their annual average per year is essentially the same. So that's pretty interesting. Let me just also give you this: the top 5 in total guaranteed money at the QB position. Now, this is the order that it goes in. Just to give you a heads up, you got Joe Burrow at number 1, $219 million total guaranteed. You've got 146,510,000 that he got at signing, basically. You got Trevor Lawrence. That's 200 million guaranteed. You've got 142 million fully guaranteed at signing. Then after that, of course, okay, let me go back. The number 1 guy, the number 1 guy in total guaranteed money. You got to put Deshaun Watson there because his whole contract is guaranteed, 230 million. So after that, it's Joe Burrow. And then after that, it's Trevor Lawrence. Then you have Justin Herbert. He has 193 million guaranteed, 133 million is the full guarantee with basically it signing. And then after that, you have Lamar Jackson, 185 million total guaranteed as well. So, that puts Trevor Lawrence in the top 5 paid quarterbacks in the NFL, which is a huge, huge commitment for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And for those that don't remember, they did pay Blake Bortles before this in terms of, a potential franchise quarterback. It was a shorter deal. Wasn't quite the magnitude of this. Of course, the landscape of the NFL in terms of contracts has changed and evolved even more and grown since that contract with Blake Bortles. However, this contract is a huge, huge, huge thing, huge commitment that the Jacksonville Jaguars are making to Trevor Lawrence to not only be the guy, but lead their franchise. So, definitely want to say congrats to him on that big time deal. Of course, there is a little bit more that goes into this deal. I'm going to talk about that, but I want to talk about that from other quarterbacks' perspectives as well. You're probably wondering what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you a few other quarterbacks that are looking at this deal and they're rubbing their hands together like Birdman. If you don't know what that meme looks like or that picture, just type it in and on social media or Google. You'll find exactly what I'm talking about. They're definitely rubbing their hands together like Birdman, seeing the new deal that Trevor Lawrence has. I'm going to talk about a couple of those quarterbacks and more. But first, we have a commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
EDO Beard Butter and EDO Beard Wash are 2 of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, You can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the break, there has been some quarterbacks that are definitely excited about this new money that just got put on the table. Now, we do have a comment from the Touring the AFC South inbox. Let's see, from the Not Bland Show said, this is a huge commitment, but is this because of the market value of QBs? Definitely could primarily be because of that. But I do think they believe in Trevor Lawrence and what Doug Peterson can do with Trevor Lawrence. And, of course, Press Stabler as well. Can't leave his name out, even though some Jaguars fans may want me to. But, of course, like I mentioned before the break, I do want to go into what this means for potentially other quarterbacks. Let me give you a few names of quarterbacks that are definitely enjoying seeing this new deal for Trevor Lawrence. One of those quarterbacks plays for America's team. His name is Dak Prescott. Now, last year, Dak Prescott, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Definitely had a very good season, although some Dallas fans will say, hey, he didn't do this in the playoffs. He didn't do that. He didn't do this. Well, franchise quarterbacks don't necessarily grow on trees, and you would think that Dallas may know that because look at the amount of misses they've had after Troy Aikman at quarterback. Just take a look. Name me the franchise quarterbacks they've had. You can throw a Tony Romo in there. You can throw a Dak in there. You can't give me anyone else. But basically, as far as Dak Prescott, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Of course, he had 1 year, he was off the previous year. I believe he had like 14 or 15 interceptions. But for the most part, he has been the quarterback of that team. He has been the guy on that team, basically leading the offense. I know they use the running game, and people say they use the running game. That's where they're the best, and I understand that. However, Dak still does throw the football, and he throws pretty well. And it would be kind of crazy for them to let him walk. Now, his number is a huge hit for their franchise this year in terms of his salary cap hit. And it would be great for them to get him signed to an extension. However, it just does not sound like they will before the season. So they're going to let him go into this season, potentially being a free agent in the 2025 offseason. Well, looking at this number, 5 years, $275 million, $200 million guaranteed in overall money, Jerry might be overplaying his hand. Because if this is the case and he has another season like he had last year, you could be looking at a $300 million man and then some, potentially. And that $200 million guaranteed, yeah, we might want to up that just a little bit more for Mr. Dak Prescott. So you also got to think he's actually probably done a little more over his. He's actually done more over his career than Trevor Lawrence has. So imagine what that number is going to look like. Just saying, Jerry Jones, you might want to get him on a contract extension now and not later. But he's not the only quarterback that's looking at this deal. Another quarterback that's looking at this deal for Trevor Lawrence is Jordan Love. Jordan Love for the Green Bay Packers. His first year as a full starter in Green Bay, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, led them to a playoff victory over the previously mentioned Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. He is a young quarterback. He's doing his thing still. And, I mean, if this follows the lineage of Green Bay quarterbacks, he could be there for 15 years too. We'll see. But, definitely a guy that showed he has the aptitude and he has the ability to make things happen. I mean, he had a lot of receivers that people had probably never heard of before the season, and he just made it happen. Made it happen with them, and they did their thing. Got to give him some props for that. So, definitely got to pay him as well because, of course, he signed a 1-year extension, I believe, either during or before the season. And now it's coming time to where they're going to have to pay him. And they're definitely going to have to pay him within the range of what Trevor Lawrence just got. We'll see what it is. If that number is the same, not, we shall definitely see. But he's looking at that number and he's definitely salivating just a little bit. All right, and last but certainly not least, Brock Purdy. Now, of course, people like to talk about him and talk about, he's got all these great skill players and he's got this running game and he's just not this quarterback and this, and this. Well, I totally understand that, but you got to look at the numbers this man's put up. Last year he put up 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Still solid, still very, very good numbers. And if you want to just kind of put it in a little bit of a vacuum or anything of that nature, Trevor Lawrence in 3 years has 58 touchdowns and 39 interceptions. Brock has 31, hit 31 in one season. Just think on that. Yeah. And also think that Trevor Lawrence has had some weapons too in Jacksonville. So, let's just kind of put that in perspective. And Brock Purdy actually has went to a Super Bowl. However, people want to claim he did or didn't and whatever. Anyway, but you've got to give him his props and you've got to also pay him. Now, I'm not sure he's going to get to roughly the amount of money that Trevor Lawrence did. However, he will get paid, and he's probably going to look to see if he can make some more of that guaranteed money. And maybe not have to, live with a roommate in San Francisco or Santa Clara, where the stadium is. So, I mean, we'll see with these three quarterbacks. They're definitely salivating looking at the contract that Trevor Lawrence got. But I kind of want to get into the expectation or the things that are going to be expected now of Trevor Lawrence. Once, this new deal kicks in, they're going to expect him to be at a certain place. I'm going to kind of, give you a few of my thoughts there. But, first, another commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. And before I went to break, I did talk about expectations. Yes, the expectations have risen for Trevor Lawrence, a.k.a. Sunshine. For those that don't know that, reference, it just, yeah, you haven't really watched a lot of movies over the last 20 years. That one movie stands out a lot. Not even going to get a title. You should know what it is. But anyway, Trevor Lawrence has signed that new deal. And with that comes expectations. Now, I kind of alluded to it a little bit before in the commercial break in the last segment. Trevor Lawrence in 3 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars has had 58 touchdowns and 39 interceptions. Now, his first year, was with Urban Meyer, and we're not going to rehash all the things that happened in that season, but 12 touchdowns and 17 interceptions was his total. So, we can't ignore that. However, give him a little grace dealing with Mr. Urban Meyer and that interesting year that happened. However, the one thing that has been certain, or a pattern for him over his 3 years, or last 2 years, I should say, in the NFL, is the ups and downs. He has great stretches, like the stretch that led them to the playoffs in the 2022 season, where they basically got hot down the stretch. Trevor Lawrence was hot down the stretch, and they made the playoffs. Of course, beating the Los Angeles Chargers in the playoffs as well. So that was an interesting end of the season, but it happened the next season in reverse for him, where he started pretty good, then boom, all heck broke loose. I will say pretty good, but not like great, because of course there was fumbles, there were some interceptions. There's certain things that for a guy that was considered a generational talent, you just don't want to see, or you don't expect to see. So, that's something that he has to clean up. 21 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. When you're getting paid top 5 quarterback money, that's not going to cut it anymore. That's not going to cut it anymore, because for your team, they're going to need you to be the star. Yeah, the guy, because they're paying you to be the guy. So the 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions season, nah, that's not going to cut it. Got to be better. 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions like 2022, yeah, that would be more like it. That's more like what they want to see. He consistently gets to those numbers and fights quits the ups and downs, and kind of, a little bit more even across the board. Then he can be the guy that people expect him, or potentially close to the guy that the generational talent that people said he was when he was playing football, high school football in the state of Georgia. So, definitely, I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence is not a talented quarterback. He is a talented quarterback. He just has to be more consistent. That is the thing. That's what we're expecting to see. It's going to be just interesting just to see the combination of Press Taylor, Doug Peterson. Press Taylor's offensive coordinator, by the way, in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson, and then Trevor Lawrence, and kind of how that all works out and meshes together to get more out of Trevor Lawrence. So we'll see what happens there. And then the things I want to see is, from him, can he be consistently good? Like I've said, he's been up and down with the football in terms of valuing the football. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with this comment in the touring the AFC South inbox. Yeah, that generational thing went out the window a while ago. Yeah, I agree. It kind of did go out the window, but you still have to put that out there from time to time that people thought he was a generational talent. I think that's not to down him. That's just to say that he's a good quarterback, talented quarterback, but I don't know about generational quarterback. And that just is what it is. Of course he's still got time to prove me wrong, but the clock is ticking. Of course, he had 16 total turnovers in 2023. Of course, lost 6 fumbles in the last 2 seasons. Got to value the football. Can't be turning it over, especially in critical times as well. And then, of course, he's a leader, but can he elevate his team offensively? He has to be the straw that stirs the drink and elevate that team offensively. It's all the talented quarterbacks that are out there. They have talented pieces around them, but ultimately they're the straw that stirs the drink. They're the one that pushes this team forward. They're the one that is the reason that this team is doing what they're doing offensively now. Last season, they had the potential with that offense to have it. I said before that season they could be a top 5 scoring offense. Well, didn't quite work out the way they thought it would. And some of that, I get is on wide receivers and people being healthy. Like, Christian Kirk was out with a abdomen, I believe, injury. So I understand that part. However, as the franchise QB, you're supposed to overcome those things, or some of those things. I'm not going to say you're going to overcome everything, but you're supposed to overcome some of those things. And then, of course, can he be great in pressure moments? Ultimately, as a star quarterback, your task is to be great in pressure moments, to stand up to that pressure, make things happen. Now, to his credit, he did some wonderful things and leading them in that comeback, a couple years ago in the playoffs versus the Los Angeles Chargers. However, he's got to be consistent in those moments as well. I mean, I'm not being hard on Trevor Lawrence, but I am saying that, he is getting paid top 5 quarterback money now. So he's got to be that guy. There is no jumping around it or anything of that nature. He's got to be that guy. Does he have the talent to be? Yes, he definitely has the talent to be, but he has to show it consistently every single time he goes out on the field, especially now since he's going to be eventually, I should say, taking up a very high percentage of their cap space. So, just to kind of give you a heads up where I think Trevor Lawrence is right now, can I list him as a top 10 quarterback? I can't confidently say that right now. I mean, is he talented enough to be that? Yes. But production-wise, I can't say confidently he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Let me just give you my list. And, I mean, of course, you can agree or disagree. I'm pretty sure I'll probably hear from some Jacksonville Jaguars fans that disagree with me. And then I will say again, this is in no particular order. I am not listing them 1 through 10. I am just listing 10 quarterbacks that could potentially be better than Trevor Lawrence. You've got Patrick Mahomes, of course, obviously. You got Lamar Jackson. You got Joe Burrow. You got Dak Prescott. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Aaron Rodgers. You got Jordan Love. Yes, I said Jordan Love. Look at the last season and what he did. And tell me I'm crazy. Let's see. I've got Jared Goff. I mean, look at the numbers he did up there with a tight end and basically a tight end, a wide receiver, and really they're still trying to develop Jameson Williams. And then, of course, you've got potentially a Brock Purdy. Potentially there, too. And then also, you want to throw in there that plenty believe that C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback in this division. And that's even actually more than 10, to be honest. So, Trevor Lawrence, you got paid. Jacksonville Jaguars, you believe in Trevor Lawrence. Let's see how it all plays out. Because now the spotlight is on you. You are the highest paid player on the team. We will be, I should say, the highest paid player on the team. Once that contract, kicks in fully, you'll be the highest paid player on the team. So we shall see how that works out. And if Trevor Lawrence is able to step up to the plate and be that guy for the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right. Of course, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Word to Prince, one of the greatest artists of all time. And of course, you can find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. And you can find Touring the AFC South on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, You name it, we are there. And also, you can find Touring the AFC South on the Mike Patton Network on YouTube. So go look it up. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy. And then, of course, click that bell so that any new episodes, once they're getting ready to drop, because I do record these live, that you can be notified and get ready to listen and join in the fun. Thank you all again for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. We're out. Peace.